The public protection piece, public's in our title, certified public accountant, we take very seriously to really protect the public thing. Ethics and honor, integrity, all those pillars of the profession really show up. But the commitment to lifelong learning is really critical.
Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. My name is Jared Miguez, a co-host on this podcast that brings you the inspiring stories of our clients who are leaders and innovators across different industries in Southeast Louisiana. They are visionary entrepreneurs, savvy real estate professionals, media creators, military business owners, and community champions. And we are going to showcase the remarkable achievements and share their personal stories. Tune in for insightful conversations, valuable lessons, and motivational stories that are going to reveal their secrets to success and offer you insights to help you on your own path. Welcome to In the Arena podcast. Mr. Ron, welcome to the In the Arena podcast. Excited to have you on today.
Ron, everybody.
Yeah, glad to be here.
The CEO of Louisiana CPA Society.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, woo-woo.
Yeah.
Shout out to the CPAs.
I was reading your bio on the website yesterday and hit all the high points. So
He fancy.
yeah, we need to take a note out of that for our bios for our website.
Are we going to do that?
No, not today. Okay. Not that we're having any issues with that. But welcome to the show. Excited to hear more about you and what the society does. So why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of what the Louisiana CPA Society is?
Louisiana CPA Society, we have about 5,000 CPA members across the great state of Louisiana, and about 2,000 student and candidate members, so future CPAs. So we represent that group. There are 55 state societies in this world, the 50 states plus territories like D.C., Guam, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands.
Cool.
So
that's
you're
how you get
official to
So
Louisiana.
So we're official to Louisiana, but we're tied to that ecosystem that is the CPA profession. Also represented by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, which is now an international association. So they're in offices in 179 countries around the world.
Yeah.
Both public accounting and management accounting too.
So we're really big on the DISC assessment, and we study a lot of behavioral styles, and we try to utilize that with our employees and our clients. And if I would draw a profile for a CPA, Ron Gitz would not necessarily fit in that box.
It's my favorite part of Ron.
Not necessarily at all. I wouldn't be anywhere near it.
I know a couple of lawyers like that too.
Yeah, for sure. So, how did you get the role?
So, somebody has to talk, right? So little did I know, and all the things I've done in my career, both having been in public accounting and in what we call industry, so in business and owned several businesses, all that time and all that experience led me to be qualified for a role that I never thought I would be in, frankly. And so being able to, I'm the 5th executive director of the state society. It's interesting, we were just in Atlanta. My predecessor, actually 2 before me, a guy named Barry Melanson, left in 1995 to become the president and CEO of the AICPA.
Oh, gotcha.
Now the International Association. He's from Houma, Louisiana.
Nice.
Graduated from Nicholls State, right? Nice. And so a boy from the Bayou, and has a 30-year career at the AICPA. Just legendary, amazing.
It's been 30 years, yeah, wow.
Yeah. So Louisiana kind of punches above its weight.
30 years ago?
Okay. Yeah. And which happens to be the year that I got licensed.
Yeah.
And so
nice.
Barry was executive director of the state society, signed my certificate, and literally moved to New York like the next day, pretty much. So I have the last batch of membership certificates signed by Barry Melanson. Cool. Grady Hazel was in the role for 17 years after him, and then now me. I've been there for 13.
Is this an elected position, or you get nominated?
It's a hired position.
Gotcha.
It's a paid staff position. The society set up as a 501c6 nonprofit corporation. So yeah, it's an association that manages the issues related to the CPA profession.
Gotcha. And then you're directly supporting the CPAs of the state of Louisiana. So if somebody needs something or wants something, or they want something pushed, they would come to y'all society to
Correct. I mean, a big word for us is advocacy. We advocate on behalf of the profession. I'm actually a registered lobbyist too here in Louisiana. So any issues that would come up, particularly in the recent past, we've had a lot of occupational licensing issues. So we represent the profession as it relates to those issues. We were part of the tax debate, but not as much in the advocacy side, although we do push for good tax policy, but we don't get involved in really the details because we're the preparers, right? We've got to help we're not administering the tax, but we actually have to prepare the tax for it to be administered and reviewed by Department of Revenue, IRS, et cetera.
So we talked a little bit about what some of the current needs are in the state, and you talked about just the workforce, right? So tell us a little bit about the issues y'all are facing with that.
Yeah, the profession sort of, I think we got more attention than any of the others. As it turns out, we do a lot of, in association management, you study generational differences, sizes. So the baby boom is a big, huge generation of people that are retiring at a rapid clip. Every year there's several baby boomers that retire. There's just not as many humans that followed them in their generation. So just that fact alone, there's not enough people to replace people that are retiring, not just in the CPA profession, but any profession.
Is the CPA profession one that is generally a longer career path because it's not as much on, like I know my dad's a physician, and certain physicians, like if you're a ER doctor, you're going to have a shorter career span than a pathologist like my dad is because he's behind a microscope every day. So is that like the CPAs usually practice longer than?
They don't ever retire,
Gotcha.
frankly. We have, I was just looking at our membership rolls, we have several that are over 90.
Wow.
They're still
No.
licensed, and they practice
That's
too, and they'll show up at our conferences, and we love talking to them. One of the things
that
I'm in the
wisdom.
middle of now, we have a volunteer chair of our board, and we go around the state doing what we call chair visits. We have 9 chapters around the state, and part of that process is we welcome in newly licensed CPAs, and we acknowledge them there, and then we award 25-year members and 50-year members. So 50-year members are 75 at the earliest age, but in the 80s, 90s, whatever. And I just awarded 4 of those in the Acadiana chapter, and they were just as current with the issues in my discussions with them as a member that's right out of school.
Yeah, can you imagine how many issues they've seen over their career? I mean, there's probably nothing they haven't seen at this point.
It's a mindset too. Like you mentioned the disc wheel earlier, and I loop, especially on the business side, attorneys that do transactional work, I loop that personality type with CPAs, and it's confirmed because the last 15 years, that's who I've worked with, right? When we're looking at a holistic picture, we're working with the CPA. And so that mentality of wanting to solve a problem, always wanting to go deeper, and that fear of being wrong, they're constantly pushing for that challenge. So it doesn't surprise me that they don't want to give that up.
They don't want to give it up.
They don't want to give it up. And then they become this just,
we
group
get
of
picked on a
wisdom.
lot, nerd, geek. Maybe it applies to some, but certainly not all.
Right.
And but it's really things like when you really dig into the profession, we have a commitment to lifelong learning. So that's part of it. So that's that desire for knowledge and understanding. When you talk to CPAs, and I've got 5,000 that I speak to, like the hobbies that they're in, they're like really into it.
Yeah.
The ones that like fly airplanes, they know everything there is to know about an airplane, how it works, how to bail out of one, how to fix one, the whole bit. So very methodical thinking. The lifelong learning piece, continuing education, we provide that to our members too. CPAs are required to do 40 hours a year. So that's a big number.
It is.
Holy
40,
cow.
40 hours
Less
a year.
than us.
And it's it's so our the public protection piece, public's in our title, certified public accountant, we take very seriously to really protect the public thing. So the ethics and honor, integrity, all those pillars of the profession really show up, but the commitment to lifelong learning is really critical.
Yeah.
So like you get, and I know like the stereotype for a CPA. I mean, we get picked on all the time too, so I can say that.
Sure.
There's a mutual friend of ours, and I introduced you to him about a year ago. You got people like John Roberts who are CPAs that are just dynamic people. That I mean, I think that his mentality and the way he does business and the way he's an entrepreneur, the way he thinks, is a phenomenal role model to look for if you're thinking about going into business and thinking that CPA could be something you're interested in.
Absolutely. I just talked to John like a couple of days ago, literally. A huge issue, super smart. Really, the piece that we're learning more about with this shortage of CPAs, one of the traits of the younger generations, they believe in entrepreneurial pursuits. And so there is no better entrepreneurial pursuit than to be in public accounting because and so John's really maxing out that model and sort of the new approach. So sort of being a disruptor to the traditional way, even with billable hours and the way billings are done. He's got a really efficient business model because he's used technology to help him leverage that. Everything from AI to billing software to being able to predict what size client he's seeking. So it becomes a very efficient business model, and he's building a practice that's profitable from day one and nimble and scalable and lots of things with an international presence too. I mean, a little bitty firm right here in Louisiana, but has an international presence. Pretty unique. There's a lot of that out there right now.
When you talked about the personnel issues, that's the first thing that I thought of. It's like recruitment, obviously, is the natural solution that you go to. But when there's just not enough humans, that's a fact, and it's something you have to address. You become more efficient.
Yeah, you
That's all
absolutely
you need to do. So it's the perfect timing right now because you're watching that happen in every industry. So to me, it's exciting for CPAs because you're like, we're doing this at the right time. We'll become more efficient. We'll have the right people in the profession, and that's what's going to help us grow and scale.
Yeah, for sure. And some of that same mentality of lifelong learning and commitment to excellence and trying to skate where the puck is going to be, not where the puck is. The profession constantly is reinventing itself. So we're in a raging sort of licensure debate right now. We got picked on a little bit. I was alluding to it earlier. There wound up being an article in the Wall Street Journal written about the CPA profession. It was right after COVID where the world kind of went dormant for a while. And these personnel issues were issues pre-COVID, but accelerated on the other side of COVID, where you saw mass retirements and that type of thing. And all of a sudden there weren't enough CPAs to do governmental audits in certain states. And so one of the ways that our licensure scheme, because of the way all of those 55 jurisdictional accountancy acts are very well aligned with this thing we call the Uniform Accountancy Act. There's a reference to it in the law of all. We're a state-regulated profession, right? But we're an international presence. So think about how complex and complicated that is. But at the end of the day, we're regulated at the state level. Those accountancy acts aren't word for word uniform, but they are substantially equivalent, which is a concept that we work to get towards late 80s, going into as recently as just a few years ago, where we were able to get references to the UAA and some changes so that we arrive at substantial equivalency, which allows for the practice privilege of mobility. So a CPA can practice across state lines without notice to the state board in that jurisdiction, without having to pay a fee. But at the other end, they don't get to escape scrutiny from or oversight from that state board. So mobility is unique to the CPA profession.
Yeah.
I know you don't have to. We have one universal CPA exam, so we don't have a bar in every state that you would have to take. And because of substantial equivalency, we have this practice privilege called mobility, and it's great, and it's portable, and it goes with you.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
we still don't even have reciprocity in like Mississippi, for example. Been practicing over 10 years. I would still have to have a whole nother exam.
So reciprocity is actually a little different concept where you would actually have to attain this is better.
Yeah.
So, but we're so into getting it right, and the current environment, we're looking to perhaps, I say the professions in their battles raging in all the states right now about changing their state laws, perhaps to tweak that model of licensure, and it would disrupt mobility for a period of time until all of the states can get their legislation passed.
So let me ask you.
So it's interesting. It's the greatest thing we have, and we care about it so much. We're willing to disrupt it. To put it back together, build it better.
Not to put you on the spot. What are the requirements for somebody to become a Louisiana licensed CPA?
Yeah, so it's 150 hours of education, which would be an undergrad degree plus 30 hours. It's not required to be an advanced degree. So 150 hours of higher ed, a year of experience, pass the CPA exam.
Gotcha. So my brother-in-law worked for KPMG for like 7 or 8 years, maybe longer, maybe 10 years. He was started in the audit department, went to tax and out, and then he was an M&A guy in Houston. And he got his undergrad in accounting and then went on and got his master's in accounting so that he said he was going to have to get like 15 hours to get his, he's like, well, might as well just take a 30-hour course so I would get a master's degree in accounting and then take the CPA exam. So now I've got my master's degree in accounting and I'm a CPA. And it worked out really well for him. And he was working with, these LLM guys at KPMG in Houston on all these giant M&A projects. And he loved his job. He ended up just getting a new job in Florida working for a real estate investment firm, but it was put him on the map.
Yeah, for sure. That the credential it's hard. It's robust for a reason. Yeah. It's respected by the public. I've done plenty in my career, and people ask me what I do, and I say I'm a CPA, and you get that instant. Y'all have to say you're a lawyer, and you get the other thing.
Yeah.
You get all the jokes.
Shield.
Yeah. But so as we begin to look at the licensure pathway, we don't want to go backwards. The respect and it needs to be robust, really, to protect the public at the end of the day. Is what we're all about.
That barrier of entry has to be there.
Yeah.
how many CPAs do you think, and then I'm going to put you on the spot, but like how many of them are entrepreneurs on the outside of the fact that they work at some
You know
accounting
the
firm?
disc. It's not going to be a ton.
Yeah, so if you're in public accounting, you're representing entrepreneurial talent.
Mm-hmm.
So you're supporting that. We talk a lot about, even though communication's sometimes an issue, but accounting is the language of business,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, if you understand accounting,
Amen.
so you could really go into any business. The numbers tell a story, and so just by looking at financial statements, you learn a whole lot about that industry and what's going on with that business. And then here come the questions from CPAs. So CPAs in public practice are entrepreneurial. They're running their own business,
Mm-hmm.
so that's entrepreneurial. It's got issues with staffing and manage. Sometimes we don't follow our own advice.
Mm-hmm.
We get too caught up in the weeds. But you'll see a trend, like a really large firm will have a managing partner that's really not practicing per se in the billable hours scheme, but really is an entrepreneurial talent running that show. And then at the other end of the scale, a sole practitioner has to be entrepreneurial to manage that process.
Yeah.
So very entrepreneurial, for sure. CPAs, there's sort of four things that we work in: public accounting being one, industry, working for a business, maybe a CFO, dealing with upper management, education, and then government. And so there are a lot of opportunities. I wouldn't think that the government folks would be as entrepreneurial,
That's right.
because it's government, but it doesn't mean that they don't have creative ideas that help government move forward too.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the people that we utilize for our practice. We have a lot of outside accounting people that are plugging, helping us with our numbers and stuff. And a lot of them are running their own business. And, like John and Tia have her own business too.
She's part of a firm.
Yeah.
She's a partner.
So just those people, I mean, it seems like even like Sean O'Neill, I mean, those guys are starting their own practice and they're thinking outside the box. They're a little bit more conservative than every time I talk to them about marketing, they're like, oh, we gotta figure out how y'all marketing? I'm like, well, this number. And they're like, whoa, like that's a little bit out of their comfort zone a little bit, but they're all thinking that way. And so it's cool to see that. I mean, I find I am almost jealous sometimes because like I just can't sit in the numbers all day. So I just, that she handles most of that for us.
Yeah.
So talking to them and them, understanding that side of the business so well, being able to tell the business a story is cool. Sometimes, running 100 miles an hour, you don't get all that all the time.
My father, when I was young and he forced me to understand business, he always pushed me back to the numbers. And so when I was at LSU and you could take electives and everybody was taking fun stuff, I was like, every higher level accounting course that I could possibly take, I wanted under my belt. And I'm still grateful for that. Because like you said, when we deal with business acquisitions, I'm like, just send me 3 years of the financials. Like just looking through the P&Ls and the balance sheet, I can learn all the questions that I need to ask in due diligence just out of simply looking at that or being able to have those type of conversations with our referral partners. So y'all are crucial to the operation of business. You're right. The risk isn't always there, but crucial to the operation.
Yeah, and the analysis part, it's beyond bookkeeping, debits and credits, and certainly that's part of the background. You start there, but you evolve to be a sophisticated financial statement reader, and you know what you're looking at and sort of the summary piece of it. So not in the weeds, but being able to step back and analyze the financial statements themselves that tell a story, and then the notes thereof. So as long as they're prepared and according to GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, we know that's a standard that we can rely on. The assumptions that are made and the disclosures, and really figure out and advise on what you see, trends, et cetera.
I love the idea, though, of an entrepreneurial person that isn't necessarily a risk taker or a people person going into accounting, because you're going to build a business strictly by service.
That's right.
You have to file your taxes. Y'all have clients that need you. So like different from attorneys, I think a lot of attorneys have that, again, similar personalities, but they struggle more with getting their clientele and takes them longer to build their business because you don't always need an attorney. Yes, you want somebody to represent you, but unless you're going to that litigation aspect, they'll have a lot of business owners that will operate businesses for decades without ever involving, a true analysis of their risk tolerance or their liabilities that could be associated with it. Whereas on the CPA end, they're calling you every year.
Yeah.
You're needed, right?
For sure. I love to see when I practice, part of my deal with startups, and it's the team. Yeah. So you really need a CPA and an attorney on the team, and you need it from day one, from conceptual thought all the way through fruition of which type of entity you want to form, how it works, risk management, how the accounting gets set up, decisions that you make as you begin to put all this together. After the fact, It's always great to hire a CPA whenever, but it's better to have them up front because they keep you or help you make better decisions as it relates to your business as you go along. You sort of get what you pay for. I know sometimes it's a lot. It seems expensive, and to have an advisor group like that, and the other piece is an investment team, right? So as your business grows, but the more successful ones are the ones that see the value from day one and incorporate an actual team to help guide them.
Yeah. There's a lady in my networking group. Her name is Julie Long, and she's got an accounting service out of Hammond, and she does a lot of tax planning. And so she is like, her biggest thing is like, don't wait until January 1st to think about taxes because you can't do anything about it at that point. Right. You got to get to the plan instead of being reactive to your taxes. And my dad always told me, you know, he's owned his own medical practice for a long time. He said that your biggest expense is your tax bill. And so you can manage that tax bill to the best of your ability and know what you, like his CPA in Alexandria would say every time I'd go to file your dad's taxes, he would tell me what his tax liability is and just want me to check it. And so most of the time the guy was like, everything was done for me. I just had to check all the boxes to make sure didn't miss anything. And most of the time my dad knew exactly how much he had to pay because he was managing that bill up front. And so I think that's another huge value that people don't realize is meeting with a CPA to plan instead of being reactive. So they don't tell you how much you owe. You can plan for how much you're going to owe.
Absolutely. There's plenty in the tax code that you can legally do, subject to interpretation, right? So laws aren't perfectly written and they get interpreted, but there's some whip-smart CPAs that will guide you through legal ways to avoid tax liability as opposed to, hiding revenues or, overstating expenses or something. I mean, breaking the law. That's not the right path. And
every new business owner is like, I need a CPA, recommend one. And I said, spend some time with me so I can learn who you are and I'll put you with the right CPA. It's like you got to match personalities and risk tolerance. And until you do that, you're not going to have a comfortable situation for your business.
I get plenty of that too. And it's hard. You've got to understand that it's got to be the right fit.
Yeah.
And with the right goals, and personality is a huge part of that.
Huge.
Yeah. So we talked about what y'all, I mean, obviously y'all working on a lot with the licensure stuff, but from a LCPA Society, like what is y'all's big push right now? Like what are y'all trying to do and promote? What can we help you with?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I mean, there's certainly the tax reform package is moving as we speak. The governor's tax reform special session started Monday a week ago. It ends the Monday of Thanksgiving. So we're there every day at the Capitol watching all that and trying to help legislators understand. They're really touching every area of tax. It dates back 100 years to say Huey Long's era, and trying to fix Louisiana's broken tax code. But it's hard. It's really, really hard work. Some really good people are trying to make a difference, but it's complicated. We'll see. Also, when part of the package is whatever the legislature does, there will be a constitutional vote of the people that will have to sort of agree to that. So this is the state of Louisiana trying to be more competitive. All this is driven by Louisiana being the only southern state with an out-migration of people. We lose on average 40,000 people a year, and every state around us does not.
We see it every week right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we have one of our offices in Slidell and multiple transactions of people moving from Louisiana to Mississippi.
For sure. So, part of the pipeline problem gets exacerbated when in Louisiana we have we're starting with fewer people. Yeah. We spend a lot of time recruiting on college campuses, and they're leaving the state to go work in other places. Yeah. They come back. About time to have babies, we start to see them really coming back to be around, mom and them. And but we are losing a lot of talent. And some of them never come back, and it's unfortunate. So to make Louisiana a more welcoming, better business environment, we have so many natural resources. We have great people.
Yeah,
we have great businesses.
That's all. We have great businesses. But our one of the things, our tax code's super complicated. Things that we tax that other states don't, the franchise tax, the inventory tax. But getting rid of those is difficult because there's, the government budget's a certain size and you've got to have a sort of a pay for. Yeah. So they're looking at doing that. So we're involved in that. The recent election at the national level is interesting. I think it's going to be, we're talking about tax planning. That outcome, I think, makes federal taxes a little more predictable. Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was set to expire, many provisions of that this year. So certainty and uncertainty is a horrible thing in the tax world. So I think we're going to have some timely being able to rely on things in the tax code at the federal level as opposed to waiting for it sometime during the year and have it retro, or God forbid, even a year from now and have it be retro. So being
Right.
able to really do some tax planning with clients, I think matters. So we'll see what happens between now and the end of the year.
So, and another question: does every CPA have to be a part of the LCPA in order to have your?
They do not. We're not the bar where you would have to be both. So we actually have a state board that regulates the profession here in the state. There's 7 CPAs on that board. State Society is just the association that advocates on behalf of that.
Gotcha. So you talk about advocacy a lot. So what
Yeah.
other stuff y'all offering to CPAs right now to
So-
encourage people to be a part of the group?
We represent the profession at the state level. We provide the continuing educational piece. We're involved in education too. I think one of the unique things about what we've recently done to help the pipeline, one of those skate to where the puck's going to be. 6 years ago, we started seeing declines in the numbers of, particularly the larger firms. They're hiring the same number of college graduates, but many of them were not accounting graduates. They were in technology, like data science and stuff, information systems. And it's because technology had made a big part in the audit teams. Like you really couldn't perform an audit, do it efficiently. Marketplace demands. We need the information cheaper, faster, more reliable. How do you do that? You do that with technology.
Yeah.
And so more tech hires, fewer accountants. So we began to see, technology is a huge part of our world anyway. So we made a commitment and revamped the CPA exam. And that project was labeled CPA Evolution. That new exam started being offered in January of 24. And we've acknowledged that technology is a core piece of what we need to be as CPAs. And so it's neat how the profession kind of is getting to where the puck's going to be. 6 years ago, made the commitment to change the exam. So
That'll change the education programs and
yeah,
everything.
so the other licensure piece, sort of follows that. And there's several initiatives that we're working on.
Very cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can tell you just, again, we go back to John Roberts. He's mentioned that y'all been in touch and getting him involved with whatever going on and getting a young group of guys involved. So, I know that y'all have conferences and things that y'all are doing, and we're involved in a lot of those, and it's networking components of that, I'm sure, so that people can learn. So, we appreciate that we've been able to be involved in what y'all have going on just from a sponsorship level and seeing what y'all are doing. It's impressive the things y'all are giving people to learn and creating opportunities for people to network from across the state in nice places like the Ritz-Carlton in New Orleans is cool.
Yeah,
Sure.
y'all CEs are way fancier than our CLEs. Just going to throw that out there.
We're trying to get people out. We're competing with technology, oddly enough. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
huge part of our world, but everybody had Zoom before COVID, but they didn't know how to use it. And now they're all expert users of it. And the convenience and the cost, I get it. But we're struggling to get people out to live conferences. And part of that's having awesome vendors that are there to talk business. And those are things you can't do online.
Yeah.
No,
You
not
can
at
get
all.
the content, but you can't get the hallway
Relationships.
conversations and the relationships. And so much of it requires follow-up. Like what you hear in the classroom setting, I hear conversations on the technical side in the hallways too, where people are comparing their clients and whatever that accounting principle, that was just discussed and how it applies.
Yeah.
So relationships are huge. So we appreciate y'all being part of that for sure, because we're trying to create the experience for people beyond what they get, online.
Yeah.
So there's no in-person requirement.
There's no in-person
So
requirement.
we have like a split requirement for us where a certain amount of hours have to be in person. So I always like
Interesting.
that, but we have that people side to us, the three of us. So I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
that's-
same.
I guess that's why we enjoy that and we value the learning that happens in person.
For sure.
Well, there's no doubt. Business is not you're not going to grow in a business owner if you're not willing to build relationships and just be around other people
Right.
and collaborate on things. I had a conversation with somebody this morning, and we were talking about marketing and talking about print ads and like what the point of it is. And I don't look at print ads as the ROI you get from the people who see the magazine. I think of the ROI of the relationship I build with the publisher and the other businesses that are sponsoring and marketing within that world. They've got to have some sort of value alignment there. So there's no doubt relationships is what makes the business world go around.
For sure. Absolutely.
And helps you learn and grow.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put you on the spot one more time before we sign
Do
off
it.
here. So we have 5
He
core
survived
values.
all the others.
Yeah, we have 5 core values. Right?
Yes.
Do you know what those are? Do you have any idea? Integrity, legacy, vocation, teamwork, and
The other one. That
why am I blanking? Are you blanking too?
Leadership.
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 There you go.
the big one.
Yeah. So out of those 5 core values, which one of those resonates with you the most?
Tell me again.
Integrity, legacy, vocation, excellence, and leadership.
I think, from the CPA
Teamwork and
lens, I would say integrity. I mean, it's the cornerstone of who we are. There's study after study that CPAs are trusted business advisors, way up on the list. Along the lines of, doctor, because they're saving your life, but your financial health, CPAs, and integrity is a huge part of that. And it's built into, I don't know if we call them pillars, but it's certainly a core of what it is to be a CPA.
Yeah.
Got to have integrity.
I love that. I do this exercise often with business owners, and integrity is very common value. But as you can see, like, we decided to keep it as ours. So I always challenge everybody to understand what integrity means to them and how it actually guides their day-to-day actions. Because it's easy to say, like, integrity is important to this organization, but can you look at that organization and see that integrity is important to it? Can you look at that individual and know in their conversations, in their work product, that integrity is important to them?
Yep, it absolutely is. Our presidents, our volunteer presidents, or chairs now, we changed the title. We do themes for their year as they serve as chair. And a few years ago, Tommy Phillips, who was the accounting chair at LSU's accounting department, his theme was integrity. And he talked about anybody can have integrity in front of people, but when people aren't looking,
that's right.
Are you making sure if you miss the garbage can with a piece of paper, he used that example, that you go pick it up and put it back in. So, there are levels of integrity, and so that one resonates for sure.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, Mr. Ron.
Yeah. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah.
It's
We're
great.
going to drink some rum now.
Yeah, it's time.